doing to help address these issues. But first, I want to get into, with each one of you, your background, your involvement with sports, and how this has brought you to where you are today with this great mission. And we're going to start with you, Jonathan.
Sure, sure. So my background, I'm originally from Tennessee, Nashville, Tennessee, and in association with sports, I came from the player side of it. I played college basketball at Pepperdine, which is what brought me out here to LA. So I was up in Malibu for a few years playing basketball there. And
That's where I know you from.
really,
You know, Lauren Jackson is my boyfriend's son.
no way.
Lauren lives with
so
us.
me and Lauren just missed each other by 1 year. So he played a year after I got there.
Uh-huh.
So, but yeah, I know him pretty well.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a good player.
Yeah, so
Really-
anyway,
really
go
good
ahead.
player.
Go ahead.
Anyways, yeah. Sports is, and basketball specifically was what I knew. It's what I loved. So I always wanted to be involved with it when I was done playing. So I went to the representation side to, get to work with these athletes that I was one of. I understand how they think. I understand what it takes to make it to that, that next level. And, I had a chance to speak on their behalf of an understanding with them that not a lot of sports managers or sports agents have, because I was a player myself.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I just wanted to be involved in the industry that brought so much to me and that I loved, and the people that, I get along with. Once you're an athlete, you always kind of carry that with you. So that's when I moved into sports management, and now represent our basketball and baseball players with AGM out of our Los Angeles office. And we are always happy to partner with Sophia and the incredible things that she's doing. And you're right, there is a very big gap and need for this conversation of athletics and domestic violence and intimacy, relationship violence. Sadly, that's an epidemic in the sports industry. We see it a lot, predominantly in the NFL. But the NBA is not an exception to it either. So these conversations are necessary. So I think it's incredible the work that she does, and the platform that you create in this space. So it's a special thing, and our agency is extremely happy to align with it and create opportunities to address it. A lot of it's a difficult conversation, because most of the time we're dealing with the reactions after the damage is done. This is a proactive conversation that we're having right now, bringing awareness to it before it happens.
Exactly.
And I think that's a special thing.
Yeah, and I think that also to bring in someone who really is an expert, having experienced this themselves, and who actually has an idea of how to bring people together. I was talking recently to Candy Lewis from the Positive Results Corporation, and this is one of the things that they're trying to do, to, instead of having an adversarial relationship between abusers and people who are being abused, for us to really get together and to address some of the underlying issues. And I'm sure that working in sports management, that you've probably seen a lot, or being involved in sports yourself.
Absolutely.
Why do you think this happens so much?
It's difficult to say, and you don't even want to put an over, a blanket statement of why it happens.
Yeah,
but
because there's so many different
yeah,
causes.
it's so different case to case. But it's there's a lot of pieces that go into it. A lot of things have to go extremely wrong for this to be the result. The sports and athletics and competition is a highly testosterone environment, and we could even allude to the lack of education that these athletes have, so that when they're handed this lifestyle of fame and money and always being a celebrity wherever they go, that attention is difficult to deal with, and the idea that you're kind of above anything, there's a lot that goes into it.
Yeah, but
really is.
most people have never been taught about those things
no,
either.
Absolutely. Having been a player, when a kid in high school is identified as, oh yeah, that guy's going to go to the league, they're kind of steered in that direction, and that's kind of all they work on their entire life.
And there's a different way that people treat you.
Oh, absolutely.
That brings with it a sense of entitlement,
Absolutely.
That I'm sure spills over to that. But I know Sophia knows everything about these things.
Sophia's over here biting her tongue, boy. She's just like, really?
So Sophia, talk to us a little bit about your story, which you have been so awesome to share and to use as a means to inspire other people and to let people know that there is hope.
Yes, my story is that there is life after abuse, and that in order to truly break a cycle, you have to be able to engage the abuser and the abused. It kills me when people truly say, "Well, we're just truly going to focus on the abused." And I was actually talking with Lieutenant Griffith with the Los Angeles Southwest Police Department on yesterday, and I gave the scenario: if you have 1,000 rapes that take place, and this is based on a true statistic, out of the 1,000 rapes, only 6 of those will actually be brought to court, actually prosecuted, potentially convicted. So that means there's 994 predators that will go back out and potentially recommit a crime again. And we've never engaged those 994 individuals that will go out and do this again. And so have we really truly broke a cycle if all we're doing now is just working with the 6 women that have reported it or become known? And so again, being able to, in a non-judgmental, as much as it may seem like it's counterintuitive to do it in a non-judgmental way, how do we truly engage the abusers to where we can try to break a cycle, whether they've been exposed to trauma in their youth, which we do find that a lot of people that have been abused is because they were exposed to trauma in their youth, which he actually even brought up a scenario. By the time most women actually pick the phone up, especially African American and Hispanics, which we know that they tend to be the larger group that are actually involved in domestic violence instances, there have been abused 5 to 10 times before they actually pick that phone up. They may have children that are in those homes that have been exposed to that lifestyle. So by the time that they pick the phone up, they have a generation potentially of children that have been exposed that now they feel that that's how that they deal with conflict. So they're not even being taught how to actually have healthy conflict resolution in their home. So they think that if they get into now an argument, 15, 16, 17-year-olds, which again, Candy Lewis, as you said, with Positive Results Corporation, dealing with teen dating violence, they think that that's the way you do it. You go upside her head or y'all gonna fight. And females fight boys too. It's not just boys fighting girls. They feel that that's the healthy, normal way. So let's take athletes now. We're dealing with athletes, like everything's built on, especially in the NFL, going upside folks' head. You know, when you're on the field, when you're on the field, we if we're being real, we talking smack on the field. But we sitting at the line, you know, we on the line. I'm eyeballing you. Soon as the count go and the snap is in, I'm about to go. I'm getting you. Like, it's on my mind. I'm cussing you out already. Soon as the snap is, I'm going across if I'm finna knock you out.
There is no love there.
Listen, this is just what it is. You know, the whole game is built on the violence of it all. It's built on competition. Even in the NBA, we all talking smack. You know, even when you cross over and we get into now we're adults. Let's say we've grown up in the hood. We know the majority of players in the NBA and the NFL are African American players coming from a lifestyle of primarily poverty, where they've seen trauma in their neighborhoods. They may have had single family homes. They may have had it to where their parents were incarcerated, or you've had parents on drugs, or they're raised by grandparents or other relatives. Now they're in a lifestyle. They own millions of dollars. They've had coaches pimp them out, schools pimp them out, agents pimp them out. And I'm just being real. Now we're in an environment where you got women throwing themselves, and I'm not saying they purposely put themselves in predicaments, but women throwing themselves at them 24 hours a day.
And sometimes we
expect them without being taught how to have proper healthy coping skills, how to have conflict resolution skills, how to know how to be able to decipher positive peers to be around, how to not, again, do certain drugs and deal with mental health issues properly instead of self-medicating. And, you know, all of the things that you would think would be the normal, healthy way of dealing with things, they haven't been exposed to. Because just as Jonathan said, their main focus was, I got to get my mom and them a house. And I'm talking Ebonics, because this is where we at. Mom and them need a house. So this is how mom and them going to get a house. I got to play. So everything else that comes with that, I just got to play. And then once I get there, oh, my girlfriend's gonna act up. Oh, this what we gonna do. I'm gonna go upside. Don't tell nobody though. Like, so after it's already done, after I've already went upside her head, you can't tell nobody. no, I'm gonna buy you this. This can't get out. Or again, I got a side piece, or I got 3, 4 women in the house. She won't leave in town, so I'm gonna go up. There's just so many things that happen that they don't even think about until it's already too late. So where Sophia comes in is, how can we do two things? How do we deal with rookies when they come into the league? Someone that's been there, done it as a survivor. I'm a healthy survivor, because not all survivors can do what I do with AGM. A healthy, real survivor can come in and deal with these rookies and talk the language that they talk. I'm trying to tell you, no woman is worth you losing your career. I'm telling you this. I'm telling you that if you go out with a female and she's had a drink, leave that alone. I'm telling you that the people that you keep can cost you your future. I'm telling you certain things that I don't want to keep you in an office and do a therapy session. Let's go out in your environment. I'll come to your house. Let's talk through where you've come from, some of the heavy weights that are on your shoulder, about your mom and 15 aunts and uncles that came out the woodworks, and all 20 of your cousins. And let's talk real and how that's really going to influence some of the decisions you make. But also let's talk about, where do you want to be 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now? And again, when you go out for the night and you getting high and drunk, let's talk real. This is like how I'm dealing with rookies, where again, your coach is just worried about you being out on the field, and they're not going to take that extra time because they're expecting you're a professional now. You signed a contract. You just need to be where you need to be. And then when I deal with veterans, again, they've already been in the game, but maybe you've been alleged of having some behavior that's questionable. Maybe you've actually been alleged of being in a domestic violence situation or sexual assault, and everybody's kind of given up on you. But again, there's a such thing as restoration. There is the opportunity for you to course correct and change behavior. And there has to be, that's where the partial of the Christian piece of me is, I can't just give up. Because if that's the case, then how do I break a cycle if I feel like once you've done this act, then there's no hope for you? That can't be the case. So how do I have a philosophy with Learning to Exhale, which is the restoration company that I created. There's a philosophy, a 3-step process that, how do we get you to where you don't continue to have these destructive behaviors and or actions that continue to have you denigrate women and yourself. So that's where then we work with athletes that might have been in situations that are not healthy to themselves or others, so that we don't go down this road again. And again, it's in a non-traditional way, to where, again, we can all be realists with one another, that people can be restored from these actions, but they have to take it seriously and they have to take accountability. And that's the first part of this, they have to take accountability. It can't be, well, because she did this, and because society, and it's because the man, and you get some athletes, it's everybody but them. I can't work with you on that. I need you to realize that you have to take it. Well, my mama, and no, sir, no.
Yes, it's like the 12-step program.
Right.
I mean,
you have to take accountability.
We start with saying,
right,
I got a problem.
And it might be that you had some traumas. There might be that there was some other issues, and I get that. But we also have to realize that you didn't have to put your hands on her. I do need you to realize you didn't have to go and get drunk and get high and do X, Y, and Z. But what I need you to realize is that you don't have to continue to do that. And that if it was some of the traumas in your past, okay, let's work with that now. Now that we realize that, let's actually get some constructive therapy, or let's do some things so that now you can actually deal with that, so you're not self-medicating. Maybe you are bipolar and you never dealt with that. So let's now actually do some things to work with that and move forward.
Yeah, to find out what those things are. Now, Jonathan, from where you sit as somebody who's working in management, how big is this problem? Is this something that you find that for your agency, clearly you've seen that. I mean, since you've partnered with Sophia and brought her into the fold to actually deal with this, this is a big enough issue to make it a major initiative, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Which is part of the reason why we created within our agency our crisis management division, so that, like I said, reactionary, we're dealing with athletes that are going through that. We have a couple of them within that division right now to help them navigate, and that's kind of what Sophia heads up and helps them sift through the process of recovering, dealing with it, and then moving on. But the piece that's most important would be complete avoidance, which would entail getting them as rookies or getting them before the instances occur. And letting them know the things to look out for and how to act in certain situations if they're out and a girl approaches them, or they're in a situation where they're frustrated with their girlfriend. We would love to give them all the tools to deal with that, which is great, in theory. But the difficulty is making them stick to that in the heat of the moment when we're not there with them. So it's important and this is kind of what's different about, or where we're different within the agency circle, within that industry, than other agencies. Really creating and giving them tools to deal with it beforehand, so that everyone is on the same page. Their agent, their manager, the people that they run with, people like Sophia, we're all on the same page of, all right, this is the tool that we want to make sure we give you within our agency. And most people don't do that. Most agencies are fine with giving guys money to let them go party and do whatever, because as long as they get the guy to sign with them, then that's all they really care about. So that's where we want to be thorough and a holistic agency where we're really looking out for them from not only their careers on their sport, whatever that may be, but their lives, their families, their money, every level that their career is going to run into, that we want to make sure we have something set in place where they have the resources where it's taken care of.
Exactly. And then, so how long have you all been in this arrangement with you doing these seminars and working with young people?
Well, I've actually been doing what I have been doing, probably not with them, but for probably over 10 years. But this relationship formed this past July, and it formed because I've been hosting for about 7 years now an event called Juneteenth Family Fun Day in Waco, Texas. It draws about 5,000, and it's geared toward bringing attention, obviously, to African American accomplishments, but there's an underlying story about promoting domestic violence and a campaign we have called Get Loud, Get Out. And Marlon Miller, who is also on the AGM team, he actually heard about some of what I was doing. He was like, oh my gosh, you have such a non-traditional way of reaching out with your message with survivors. I think it would be a great asset. And he had a particular client that he wanted me to reach out to. And my whole thing is, I'm about saving lives. I mean, I unfortunately fell victim to losing my innocence at 9 at the hands of my father, who was my first predator. And then my mom trafficked me for drugs after he passed away at 9. And then I succumbed to being a parent by one of her dealers at the age of 14. And so I have been in a cycle of habitual sexual assault since the age of 9, and then in domestic violent relationships as a result. And so from my standpoint, my only mission is to save lives. No matter how I need to do that, I'm going to do that. And when he told me about this particular young man, and I actually went to his home and met with him, and I told him, I said, my only goal is for you to be healthy. And so I need to have it to where you're going to be real and honest with me, and I will do that. And I originally started this relationship was pro bono. It wasn't about money. It wasn't a contract. This was on my own dime. I just was like, okay, what do we need to do?
This is your ministry.
This was literally, this is what we need to do. And you see this young man that literally, this was someone that came literally from a broken background that kind of got thrust into this limelight and didn't really have any type of structure to say, you're doing too much. Like, sit down somewhere. Like, he needed one of those, you need to just sit down somewhere. Sit down somewhere. Do you realize in an instant, you can destroy your future in an instant and then take somebody's life in the meantime? Like, the totality of the decisions that these young men are making that they don't realize in a moment of them thinking they're having fun. And it's not fun. And when you think about the statistics that every 9 seconds, the whole time that we've been doing this interview, that literally over 30 women would have been beaten, or how many women would have died in the process of this interview alone. It's not a game. Like, the clock is ticking on lives. And when you have to drop the seriousness to these young men and women, because women also abuse, that's when you realize by any means necessary, this work has to get done. And if that means that I have to unveil my truth, if that means I have to be transparent, I just recently did a Facebook Live that said I had sex for survival. Like, that was my means when I was trafficked. It was just how I had to survive. And there's no way that I now at almost 40 can be shamed for that. It took me till I was 38 to realize I was valuable. Like, what happens to us younger can take 20 to 30 years to recover. It takes decades to actually recover from what happens. And that's why we don't have time for games. Like, when you get into this life, we don't have time to play games. So when you have an entity like AGM that comes to me and says, hey, we have an avenue for you to touch some individuals' lives on this level, of course I'm going to say yes. And money wasn't the first thing. I didn't even talk contract. We 3 months into the game before I even said, okay, so what we talking about? Like, cover transportation so I can get to them. It wasn't even about making money. It was about, how do I touch these young men's lives? Because they touch lives. And they really touch millions of lives that watch them every day. And that's what I was getting at. How can they be an example for all of the fans that they have? How can they now do events where they show up and they can now stand? And even as Candy Lewis, when you were just talking about her, and she has her campaign, and we were just talking about men really needing to stand with us. Like, it's one thing for all us ladies to talk about, you need to respect us. You need to know that, we have value, we have worth. But it's not until men still have a clout and air and power about them, that when they stand with us, it really says something. Not to say that we don't have power, don't get me wrong. But when we stand together as men and women, it really says a lot, especially in sports, as we well see, that if we stand together in the sports realm, it says a whole lot. So when we start getting athletes to have the courage to stand with women on this particular issue, which is really touchy when it comes to sexual assault and domestic violence, it's going to say a whole lot, because it took a whole lot for them to just do racial injustice. That was touchy just in and of itself. As we saw, there was a huge fallout in NFL. It still is.
It's ongoing.
But just think, if we could stand together to say enough is enough when it comes to domestic violence and sexual assault, it's really going to be something else.
Yeah, and it's a problem that's not in any one corner. I mean,
it's not.
And if we don't get to the root causes of it and really get some kind of dialogue going. I mean, with any issue that exist, if we can't get dialogue going on both sides,